What is going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. BobbyFi back with my man, Eric Sheets-Haber. We are bringing you the MLB Breakdown for today. It's been a pretty good few days. I've been making good money at DFS. Glad to have it back. The last week has been a lot better than the first week was. And we're rolling, man. We're ready to get into this. Sounds like you're doing pretty well as well.
Yeah, I'm doing well, but here's the problem. I mean, I guess it's not a problem. It's an interesting situation. The problem is that I'm spending a lot of time on this. And I'm spending a lot of time on this. It's got to be worth it. So I think I'm going to have to start playing bigger. That's just the way it's going to have to be, I think. And I have been already, and I've been actually, it's been working out because you know what? I've gotten so into, fortunately or unfortunately, I've gotten so into golf and the NASCAR and MMA, and I've been doing some work on hockey and some spreadsheets and stuff like that. Also, I've been just something to look forward to in the future. Is, I mean, I'm trying to work on something that I asked you about like 2.5 years ago. If there's some way to just factor in both ownership and value and come up with like kind of like one number to kind of, you know, take it all into account. So I'm doing a little work on that. We're really spending a lot of time on this. And again, it's part of, I mean, listen, this is the first year I have no AAU basketball for like 5 or 6 years. And before that, 4 years before that, you know, I was like totally entrenched with poker 24/7, right? So, not 24/7, but like during like my you know, insomnia hours. But now that there's none of that, I have plenty of time for this stuff. So I'm just finding it just really, really interesting. So we'll see where we head on from here. There's no way we can keep doing 4 hours of videos a day, though. It's just no.
Oh, no, for sure. And honestly, you don't have to do all these with me. I'm happy to do them.
No, but I enjoy it. That's the problem.
I really enjoy it. Every time you do, I want to do it with you. But again, I know you're a busy man and you've got other stuff going on.
Nah, it's cool. And I learn that's what I see. I always say that, listen, if I'm going to learn something or teach something, I'll do it. And so I always like to do a little bit of both. So I always feel as though I learned something from when I talk through the stuff with you. And once I stop learning something, then I'm just not going to even do it anymore. Fortunately, I got so much to learn in this freaking thing that it's going to be a while before I come to the end of that road. That's for sure.
Man, we're I feel like we're getting, you know, it goes well. I feel like it does the same thing for me. It helps us talk through it. I've heard it from a lot of listeners that they really appreciate it. So I think it's good. I think the process is good. I think we talk a lot more. I think we say, what do we do differently than other people sometimes? And I don't want to go deviate. We'll jump into slate in a minute. But I think one thing we do differently is and you've challenged me on it a lot, which is partly what helps, is we talk about process a lot more than projections. We talk about lineup construction. We talk about different ways of playing against different fields rather than just talking about who projects what. Like, look, you want to look at who projects well, there's a million projection systems out there. They're all going to be similar enough, at least. So that's not what we're here for. We can tell you what that stuff is, but mostly we're here to try and help you become a winning player, and whatever else we can do to help do that, we're here to do. So with that said, let's get into the slate today, Sheets. Sure. Do you want to pull up your screen and we'll just go game by game?
Yeah, so what I'm going to pull up, I'll pull up the what do you want to pull up? The DraftKings main slate? What do you want to pull up? Slate,
yeah. We can talk real quickly about while you pull up the DraftKings main slate. I mean, on the early slate, which you're going to be probably going to be too late for the people once this plays. Yeah. I just decided to take both pitchers in Colorado and stack the other guys from Oakland and LA who are expensive because it's literally a 2-game slate and I haven't played one, and I'm going to just play the most extreme high variance way I can because there's 2 games. You have to do something to get weird. So that's
well, the good news is that one of us is probably going to win because I didn't do that. So I did half of that. I played the Arizona bats and then I played the Arizona pitcher against Colorado. I thought that was enough leverage to leverage for me. I didn't have it in me to play both pitchers because you want to know why? Because I didn't know if I was going to get enough of the hitting out of the other game. You know what I mean?
No, of course not. But like I'm playing one lineup, I don't care. You know, I'm just playing one. Right. You know, trying to win a tournament with a bunch of people. But I think that, like, honestly, if it was on the main slate tonight, I would be stacking Colorado all over the place because of Weaver's hit or miss, and he didn't get wild, and he's just like the perfect kind of guy to stack against in a Colorado stack. But anyway, I'm not going to do that today. This is
a really, really tough slate to have on a day with a lot going on. You know, like with the well, I shouldn't say. I mean, the NBA is going to be already done. I'm not done, but I mean, we should hopefully be done with the NBA by 6:30. I mean, one full game will be done, and maybe Ugh.
Basically done. I mean, there's only 4 games in the NBA slate, so I think we'll realize when we go through it. It's pretty big, pretty not straightforward because there's always going to be late information. There's only 4 games and we have gaps in between, unusual, like not like we have had.
I only mentioned it because the baseball slate to me is really, really hard.
It is hard. It's hard to differentiate the hitting, and it's hard to find a good SP2 that you feel comfortable with.
Oh, that's so interesting because I don't even know who I want to play in pitcher. So you're telling me there's good SP1? All right, good. So we'll talk about it.
Well, there's several good options, and we'll get into it.
I mean, I literally have like 8 pitchers I can play, and I'm looking at my stacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 top ones, and then like literally 7 other teams I can go for. So yeah. I'm gonna have to figure this out. So let's you want us to do game by game, or let's start with game by game, I guess then. So when I first looked at the slate actually last night, and again, I don't know how much I don't want to get poisoned by projections or whatever, but when I first looked at the slate last night, I was really, really into the idea of playing Tanaka. You know, they eased him back. He had I think he was really sharp and really good in his last game. And just like you said, I mean, Atlanta might not be as scary as they otherwise could be. Now, I don't know if Acuna is going to be back playing again today. I don't know what the story is with that, but you know, that's where I felt going into today. And then I got involved, get into the projections and all this stuff. And Tanaka's to me like looking like a second option, but totally honest, I don't really have a first one. So if I want to do like 8 pitchers, and when you tell me that Tanaka could end up being low owned, and because it's 90 degrees here, you know what I mean? It's a terrible freaking weather to be playing pitchers if you want to know the truth. But I don't know.
Pitch count that people are worried about with Tanaka. He threw 59 pitches in his last game. He was absolutely cruising along, had a 1-hitter going, and they pulled him.
Okay, so now it's a new day. You know what I mean? They're ramping him up. No, I mean I don't know.
Yeah, ramping him up means like maybe 70 pitches to me.
Oh, all right.
And that might be good enough, but Atlanta
not on a 100-game slate. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's not even that many games actually. That's the funny part. It's just it's because there aren't that many pitchers once we really get down to it. But I am going to use a little bit of Tanaka just at the moment. But I need to dig a little deeper and find out the pitch count because honestly, I don't know what the pitch count's going to be. I don't think they're going to find that information. But if I hear that he's going to throw over 70, I'll have some interest. But even still, like Atlanta is missing 3 of the top 5 hitters, but it's not like this is a terrible team. And they've got a couple guys who are good bats in the lineup who are patient, who could hurt you. But we'll see if Acuna's in the lineup today. I don't know. I'm iffy on Tanaka. I'm very hesitant to play him here because the pitch thing worries me. But I might revisit it when we're done.
What about the Yankees? And again, I don't know what it is about them. I never end up. I don't want to say never end up playing them. I don't play them as much as I otherwise could have, and they just keep on just killing it.
Well, yeah, that's what I used to do too. Because you're looking for such pivot. Like that's the way we're thinking logically. We're trying to find pivots off of the chalky situations. With the Yankees, almost always are somewhat chalky. But the problem with that is when you get into the actual stuff now, today will be different because they'll be really chalky. But they haven't even been as chalky as they could have been. And we may not need to get as different. We may be able just to use certain pieces of it. But it is kind of a weird team because it's like, do you want to play Voit as a 1-off or a 2-off? Like, do you want to play Judge at that price as a 1-off? So it's kind of a hard team to stack in a funny way unless you just go full stack. But this is a day where you might want to full stack them.
Let me ask you a question. What percent of the lineups and the action, and I asked you this a lot in the beginning, comes from, you know, Roto Grinders, Awesemo, you know, call them whatever, like the top 4 or 5, you know, main sites? Like what percent do you think of the action comes from people who are just kind of like, I don't want to say reliant, but like real just avid subscribers to those types of sites? It's got to be like 70% maybe.
I mean, what do you mean subscribers? Like that's a hugely vague situation.
That's a good question, right? Yeah. Okay. So, and the reason I ask is one of the reasons, in my opinion, that you know, you tell me the Yankees haven't been highly owned. I mean, again, you're not much of a projection guy is with baseball, right? So, but I do every day. I go through a couple of the places and I look through and I see where the stack, you know, rankings are, and I write them down or whatever it is. And between you and me, I mean, because I always check, the Yankees never really come out as a top value stack.
Yeah, because they're so expensive, and there's been Coors in the slate for the last 7 days.
Right. So, but I think what happens is that so many people just run these optimizers, and you know they take the bat and they do whatever, and they just don't get to a lot of them, and that's maybe why they're not as owned as, because there's so many, all these optimizers, they don't really spit them out as much as you would think they would.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but I still do think that today they're going to get very heavy ownership. But I also like them, so we have to you know, when we go through the slate, you'll see why I say this about a number of teams, because the ownership should spread out and gravitate somewhere. My guess would be the Yankees, but it could actually be spread a few different ways. So that's kind of got me excited at playing multiple lineups tonight, because I like a lot of different stacks and a lot of different spots. The Yankees being one of them. If you want to get different with the Yankee stack, first of all, Judge at 6.3 is so expensive that he might actually not be as high owned as he ordinarily would be.
How can you play him at 6,300?
He hits a home run every day. Every day. Yeah. I mean, look at his last game. His game log is, I mean, he basically has 16 or more in 9 out of the last 11 games. That's insane. That's like not production you can ever, and that's like, also the thing about Judge that he gives you too, he's going to walk sometimes, which always is a reason not to play a power hitter, but he hasn't done it much this year, but he can always go out there and steal a base for you as well. Like, you know what I mean? Joey Gallo does that too. He hasn't done it this year, but he's a guy in the past. That's what he'll go out there and steal you a few bases. So like, look, just looking for extra upside. Obviously, if you're going to spend 6.3 on someone, I always want a little bit of extra upside. But yeah, it is hard. But I think that he's definitely, if you're playing the Yankees, it's going to feel really dumb at the end of the day if you stack them without Judge and he goes off. But at the same time, you can definitely stack them a lot easier if you don't play him. What I would suggest you do if you do play the Yankees stacks is to play Mike Ford instead of.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Luke Voigt is the better play. Mike Ford is going to be lower owned, batting further down the lineup, and actually has the platoon split with the starter. So that's where I would go. Aaron Hicks is 4.3. He's a great price. I love him on DraftKings. Like him on FanDuel as well, but he's been a little struggling. Gary Sanchez has been so awful. I hope that keeps people off of him, because at some point he's going to break out of this, and I'd like to be there at low ownership instead of the day he does it at 25% ownership after not getting a hit for a month. But yeah, the priority is definitely for me if I'm in my Yankee stacks, would be Ford. I will have some Voigt too. Ford, Hicks, and Judge. And some of it has to do with ownership, and some of it has to do with the players that I like the most.
All right. You want to move on?
I mean, yeah, if we're talking about playing Judge at 6.3, playing LeMahieu at 5.1 feels really silly. But
yeah, I guess that's why I never play these people. I don't know.
But I do think with a stack, you want these guys, and I'm gonna get some exposure. Ready?
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to Baltimore, Philly, where, I mean, I presume this is where a lot of the ownership is going to come in both pitching and hitting, I suppose. So talked about this extensively actually before his last outing, and I mentioned that one of the popular projection systems had Eflin really, really popping, and he ended up. You know, he was fine. You know, he had 4. He was actually good.
Against the Yankees, that's an incredible game.
Yeah, he pitched 4 innings, gave up 4 hits or whatever it is. And now he's popping as the best point per dollar play. But between you and me, I don't think it's by a lot. And if he works out to
trust the projections for pitcher. Sorry to cut you off. The projections.
This is not cutting me off. This is really important. So I was going to ask you
the projections are just all over the map on pitchers. They have no idea what the hell's going on this year.
Really?
So yeah, trust a little bit of it, but don't trust as much as like we did in the past. Yeah, they've got guys projected like 7 fantasy points who are going to pitch like 90 pitches. It doesn't make any sense.
That's really interesting, because that was one of the things I do is actually I would think the opposite. I would think that the pitching was more reliable because. You know what I mean? Because you don't have as much variance as you do with the hitters and stuff like that.
Well, I'm going to tell you something between you and me that I've heard quite a number of times, is that people actually have brought it up enough that there's a big sub Twitter world that's convinced that everybody in the major DFS information industry is lying about the projections of pitchers so they can take advantage.
What if I told you also that, and I told you I was going to do this for golf, and one of the things I'll share this with you. One of the things I do is I actually have, like several major projection systems side by side. So I can actually see, because my first conspiracy theories, they just basically just like copy each other. You know what I mean? And they just like share whatever. And then the next thing I do is I see which places have like more outlier numbers than any place else. You know what I mean? So I'm actually very interested in those types of conspiracy theories. Because listen, I'm already experiencing it a little bit in that, you know, we talked about this before we started doing this stuff. You know, do we want to waste time? Do you want to spend time on content, right? Because when you do that, you are, by its very nature, not spending as much time developing your own lineups, developing whatever.
Or is that true, though? I don't agree with that.
Right, no, but that's the theory, and my logic and the reason why I'm doing this is the same reason I did poker when I did Poker X Factors. I actually get a lot better doing it by doing this research and explaining it. Right. But what I was going to say is like the people that like, especially like the high stakes players on that are also contributors to some of these sites. I feel for them a little bit, you know what I mean? Because I know that it's got to be in their head. Oh my God, I got to do these freaking projections now. I got to do this now. I got to do this now. I got to do that now. And I got a 1,500 I got to put in, you know, whatever it is. And I don't think it goes to say like, well, I'm intentionally give the people the, you know, the worst information, although if that's what people think, and that's, you know, whatever.
I'm not about us, by the way. This is not about us.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. So in any case, I got to think about that, what you said about the projections for pitchers not being as important as maybe I thought they were. Okay, so in any case, Lyles is projecting to be a good play today. As everybody is always against Seattle and everybody always busts. So it's a kind of interesting.
Right, but wait, we're on Baltimore or Philly, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, not Lyles. Sorry, I'm against Baltimore, and everybody always busts. So yeah. I had what's his name? I had not Godley. What the hell was his name from last night? I put him out of my head already. Wheeler couldn't get the ball over the plate, and then he got tagged a little.
He was going great. He was going fine. Except for
he stopped. He went 25 pitches in the first inning. He was already dead.
No. Then he was at 6 innings with no earned runs and 4 hits. That's it. Like he had nothing. His line was completely clear until the 6th inning.
Who?
Wheeler. Yeah, he didn't give up a run till the 6th.
It certainly seemed that way.
All right, go ahead. That's Eflin, but okay.
If he ended up with 5 freaking fantasy points or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, he was terrible. Obviously, he was on my main lineup that if I used what's his name, I would have come in like 6th place in the 1,500. In any
case, so on the one hand, Eflin rates to be one of the best pitchers on the slate, and also, like all the Philly bats are basically free. So the Philly bats are rated, I presume, to be the most, between them and maybe Tampa, probably the most popular hitters on the slate. I mean, FanDuel, they're giving it away over there, and you know, and so I put them in my dummy lineup here just because it's like so sweet to be able to do this with Dodgers also. And I guess I'm interested in them, but you know, how chalky do I want to be is going to be the question. And I guess that's where I'll end up for now.
Yeah, it's weird because so I like Eflin as a pitcher. He's really good against righties and really, really good. So I wouldn't be playing so first of all, I'm going to play a good portion of Eflin. Right now I've got him as my most owned pitcher, sort of tied. Like, I don't know, it's a very close match. But I don't really want to get afraid here. He only made 1 start this year. He threw 77 pitches. Good strikeout ability. I think there's a good chance he gets through 5 clean here. He's not expensive. He just makes a lot of sense, man, just to be honest with you. But
yeah, for sure.
But you know, it's one of those things where a chalky pitcher where there is some variance, but he's really it's going to be hard for people not to play him. Doesn't have a bad umpire. Not that he doesn't have a great one either, but not a bad one. All right, so I'm on board with Eflin. I'm a little bit. I do want to get where I don't play Eflin. I do want to take a couple of these lefties have kind of been overlooked. Like, they're just so unowned, and his slate is not as huge as other ones. So the only guys I would really want to play would be Santander, Ruiz, and Cisco probably. Okay. Just because I'm always looking for a catcher. But Ruiz and Santander, and I have this guy I'm not going to play, and you can't play him. I'm going to tell you right now, don't play this guy. But I have had a weird feeling Chris Davis is going to hit a home run tonight, so I'm not going to play him. I'm just throwing that out there. Don't do anything about it. Don't trust it. There's one other guy I've got a feeling with that I feel better about than Chris Davis, so we'll get into him later. But that's who you want on the Baltimore side, in my opinion. And then on the Philly side, okay, so what I think you do here is sort of like the Yankees, you try and play the lower owned spots. But the cool part is the lower owned spots might be 2 guys who actually profile perfectly in this matchup. LeBlanc is not a bad pitcher, by the way. He's not a great pitcher, but he's not as bad as to get blown up. But it is great hitting weather in Philly. This is a lineup that just crushes left-handed pitching, even though LeBlanc is a little bit reverse splitsy. So,
He is.
but part of the reason you've got good lefties, you've got Bryce Harper with a 50+% hard hit rate versus lefties right now this year. You've got Didi Gregorius, who's got an ISO 2 of the past 3 years better against lefties. So those are the guys who I would prioritize. If you play Didi and Harper, you're going to get lower ownership. And you actually probably have almost as good a splits, except for the fact that Reese and McCutchen, especially, well, Realmuto, but he's really expensive. But Reese and McCutchen definitely profile really, really well here, especially Reese. And he looked like when he's get the ball really well, 2 out of his 4 at-bats last, or 3 of his 4 at-bats last night, 3 out of 5. Had a couple hits, hit one to the wall. But I think he's coming around. I really like him, and Harper would be like if I just had to play somebody. But the Didi's my sneakier one, who I'm just going to load up on at shortstop, especially if Corey Seager doesn't play tonight.
Okay.
All right.
I just it's a tough slate, man. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing.
It's going to be interesting because the hitting is really where you run into issues, at least where I do.
All right, so then you can help me with the pitching because I'm lost. All right, so so we get to the next game, and I have interest in a little bit of both pitchers and a little bit of both hitting. So I don't know what to do. Maeda and Lauer. Actually, Lauer and Maeda. Lauer on FanDuel. Also.
I wasn't expecting Lauer on FanDuel call at first, but I didn't look at his price. Is it crazy?
I guess. I don't know.
How many innings can this guy pitch?
I don't know. We're going to find out, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, he's 57 on FanDuel. Okay. Oof.
He's coming off a great game. He only gave up he had negative 6.7 fantasy points. I mean, how can you not play him? I mean,
he's 2.2 innings once and 3 innings the other time.
So you combine the two of them, and you almost got a quality start. I mean, like you're in business on freaking FanDuel.
Yeah.
Maeda is an interesting one because when I first looked at this slate, I'm like, where are you going to find freaking raw points from? And then he doesn't have that many raw points to go around either. So he's just a guy. He's going to make my player pool, I think, unless somebody's going to. You're gonna have to. It's got to be a really good show because I have to come out of this with a better understanding of what I want to do than going.
Okay, well, I'm gonna help on this part at least, and you can feel free to at me later and hate on me. I love Kenta Maeda tonight.
Okay.
And I'm debating really going heavy on him. The strikeout rate for this Washington team, this Milwaukee team this season is unbelievable. Kenta Maeda is a good enough pitcher anyway. The Dodgers, everybody says, oh, the Dodgers held him back, and that's true. They held him back but it wasn't because he wasn't good. It was because they had literally 7 really good starting pitchers, and at times he was the best of all of them. He's a terrific pitcher. He's pitched extremely well so far this year. I feel like he had that match against Pittsburgh last week Pittsburgh hasn't been striking out as much at home. They never do, and I'll chalk it up to that. He looks really good against Cleveland and at the White Sox, so we like those teams. This Milwaukee matchup is a little bit of a boom or bust type of thing, but I actually think he's got a pretty decent floor. I think he's one of the best pitchers on the slate. I think that if you were ranking for cash, he would rank 3rd behind 2 other guys, which one of them is Eflin. But he's the guy who I think he might have, I don't want to say the most upside. I think more often than not, he's the best scoring pitcher on the slate. I think it's close between him and another guy. I don't know. That doesn't mean a huge score, though. Do you need the money? Do you need the 20? But to take the safety, maybe you would do it. I really like Maeda. I don't know. I'm not like locking him in, but I'm flirting with the idea of really loading him up on him.
I have a feeling that the winning score on this slate is going to be like 110 points.
I totally disagree with you. I think this is the exact opposite. Last night was like that a little bit until the end of the Colorado game. But tonight, I think you're going to see the lineups I think there's a lot of lineups that are ready to go off.
All right.
That's my take.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I hear you. All right, so you like any of the hitting from this game then? I mean, because
I love Minnesota.
They were my they were my fifth favorite team considering everything today. So we can talk about that.
Yeah, prefer always for me 4-man stacks against Milwaukee, but I would consider making.
Wait, why is that? Because they're bullpen, you mean?
Mhm.
Okay.
But also, I like to try and look. I'm not max entering most tournaments, so the ones that I'm not max entering, especially if I'm going to have 1/10 the lineup or 1/20th the lineups of Osimo and 6 other guys, not to mention the entire rest of the world, I'm going to need to try and do something differently by habit. So this is what I do in baseball. I do 3 and 4-man or combo 3-2-2s or 3-3-1s, 3-3-2s. I mean, or 4-4 whatever's 4-4s, 4-3-1s. That's just the way that you can get different. But I got to say, so it's going to be really hard to talk me off of Nelson Cruz today. The price is high. There's a lot of good outfielders. That's the only reason why not to play him. He's the priority bat. Honestly, to be honest, I love Byron Buxton tonight. I know this sounds like a redo of every show we do. You get Byron Buxton against a lefty in that park at 3.3 at the bottom of the lineup. This guy's been terrific lately. I mean, what do we want more? He's got power. He's got speed. Nice to see him steal a base the other day for the first time this year, I believe. He hadn't really been running as much because they have so many good hitters that he doesn't run as much. But I love him here at the bottom of the lineup. And I said I had a good feeling about him yesterday. He went 3 for 4. He didn't hit a home run, but he did do a 3 for 4 with a stolen base. At 3,300, I think as a part of this stack, I really like him. Don't mind any of the other guys, but I think that Kepler's going to be lower owned. So will Rosario. So you can always play these guys. Garver's not going to be high owned, I don't think. I don't think any of them will be except for Cruz, really. So I love this stack, actually. And Buxton is not just a leverage play for me. I actually like the way that he profiles here. Again, good hitters park. He's got speed. Got the splits advantage against Lauer, who I don't have belief in, by the way. And sure, he could go through 4 or 5 innings tonight and get through it, but I don't believe in him overall. I like the Minnesota stack. The only problem is comparing them with other stacks. They're really close today.
I would like to say that on FanDuel, Mitch Garver is like 8 cents.
Yeah. It's also because he hasn't hit. He's hitting like 75. Like 0.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but he's like 9,000 on DraftKings, and he's like 8 cents on FanDuel. I just thought I'd let you. Okay. And no interest. I presume no interest in Milan.
Only Yelich for me, just because I think he's heating up.
Okay.
Yelich has struck out this year 34% of the time, which is from the guy who's one of the lowest. Like he's usually like around 10, or maybe even lower. It's kind of weird. I think it's more of an aberration. I don't think it's going to last. So I'll take him against anybody when he's going to be low owned at home.
Okay. San Francisco, Houston's next up on the list, and I really don't want to play Zach Greinke. Do I have to? I mean, I really don't. I really prefer not to.
After we just came up with 2 other guys, but I think he's a good
I know. I'm just saying in general. He's one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 pitchers, like I said.
Yeah.
And again, I guess my problem again is I thought I was looking for raw points because I didn't think that there's that many great hitting options. But if you don't need those, and it's not like he's going to get more than 20 fantasy points anyway. You know what I mean? Like he's. I think his strikeout upside might be in the shitter, so to speak. And yeah, San Francisco is really bad, but 10-3 is a lot, man. So he's one of the guys that's on my list of guys to consider. And I'll probably end up not playing him. That's probably going to be the case. On the hitting side, I have Houston as one of the many teams that I think are worth going for today. And that will involve, I guess, if Tucker's going to lead off as a lefty at 3,600, I'll try that. If Reddick is going to bat near the top of the lineup at 3,400, I'll try that. I think, and Brantley too. I mean, this becomes a pretty affordable way to go, and you could even then go pay up for Bregman or if you want to.
Yeah.
So I think that what's his name? I guess out of the lineup or threatening to be out of the lineup, Altuve, whatever. I think that maybe makes the stack a little lower owned. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, but you know what? Altuve hasn't been doing anything, so I'm not too concerned about him being out of the lineup right now. So I guess Houston is one of the second, third, tertiary stacks that I'm interested in. Maybe I'm more interested in than I thought.
Yeah, I think they're up there too. This is part of the problem I have today is I really like them, but if they only pitch KL a few innings, you could argue that it could be like a relief type of game. The lineup is weaker without Altuve in there no matter what. But I'm more than happy to play Toro at 2.7, assuming that he'll be in there. I'm more than happy to play Kyle Tucker, who's going to be probably pretty chalky at 3.6, probably leading off. Josh Reddick, I almost said JJ again. I like him quite a bit. Those would be my priority guys. And then if you want to get over to Bregman, Brantley, and Correa, more because of price, they're my priorities. But you include Brantley, Bregman, and Correa, and then maybe you throw in Tucker and Reddick for the stack, or Tucker and Toro. Or actually, I can't play Toro and him, but you see what I'm saying. That's the way I've got them sort of prioritized. Tucker, Reddick, and then the Bregman, Brantley, Correa, because they're just a little bit more expensive, and I'm having trouble figuring out how to, I actually have a lot of teams I like hitting that are expensive, so that's where I'm running problems.
Any interest in Greinke?
Yeah. You don't have a lot of opportunity for very secure points. I think he has one of the highest floors on the slate. I think he has the highest floor on the slate. I think he has the highest ceiling on the slate, which is not that high.
Yeah, exactly.
But is it though? Like, maybe it is. Like, we got to think back. Just because he hasn't struck out more than a guy per inning in his start so far, and he still struck out like some guys. It's not like he's been striking out nobody. It's just not what you like. I don't know. It's a tough one for me because the Giants, I believe, you can get through that lineup pretty easily. But we've seen the Giants and the Orioles sort of blow up a lot of our lineups early in the year, and feels a little bit nerve-wracking that it happened again. But I still want to have Greinke. Right now, I'm sort of debating between him, Maeda, if I'm going to pay up for one of those guys. But I think Maeda is a little bit more my preference, but I think Greinke right behind him. I think Maeda is in a much more dangerous situation than Greinke is because of the lineup he's facing.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah.
That's a big thing, though. I mean,
no, it's you. I mean, what I was going to say, just because he's playing San Francisco.
I'm a little bit sometimes I'll go for it with pitchers, but a lot of times I get nitty with pitchers and just want my points because I know I can get points out of my lineup if it goes right,
Yeah.
These days I'm not looking for the crazy score unless there's a guy in the slate like Scherzer or Bieber or something.
Okay, so I think we go to the Washington Mets. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going getting to Anibal Sanchez. Is it Anibal or the other one, or Aaron? It's Anibal Sanchez. Yeah, I'm not going to get to him. But he was just for disclosure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He is my 10th favorite pitcher on the slate, for whatever that's worth. But here's my question. I mean, they're just going to keep not owning not keep because they were really chalky the other night. But we're going to be able to get Washington at low ownership tonight. How'd they end up doing yesterday, by the way? Did they do anything or no?
Washington, no, they didn't. They didn't do much. They started off.
But it's fine. But it's fine because I can pretend that I was right, and it's because they put up 16 runs the day before, right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you nailed it.
Right. So it's not just because of the variance of hitting; it's because they put up 16 runs the day before, right? So I'm going to go to bed with that one. But same thing, man, isn't it? Like Nats against the freaking righty, and you get to play Soto, and is Eaton not in the lineup? No, you get to play Eaton again. You could play Thames if you want. You can go back to Cabrera again. I mean, I don't see why you can't play all these Washington guys again. And they weren't listed as the guy that someone I was really that interested in. But
so now you're running into the problems that I'm running into. You're seeing what I'm running into because I love Washington today. And
okay.
I don't know how to keep just saying I love all these stacks and get away with it. So I guess I'll prioritize, and the priorities are Soto and Eaton and Turner. Turner is absolutely catching fire right now. I just want to point out this guy he can get really streaky. And what's crazy to me is I never in a million years, I actually made a bet last year that he would have the most fantasy points. I allowed the guys to pick anyone else. What's funny is I won because everybody else who bet me got hurt, like Judge. But Turner hasn't really stolen bases yet this year. He's hit now home runs in 2 games in a row. He's got 5 hits in the last 2 games. It's a good matchup. I like this offense leading off, going to get 5 at-bats. Really, really like Turner. Really like Soto. Castro would be the 4th guy for me. Those are my favorite 4, but I like them all. And you can play them all in stacks. Those are 4 stand out to me as being the best plays.
Also, if you're going to play Turner, I have no problem also playing Robles from the 9 hole also, if you want to.
I love the idea of doing that. I just feel like is this the slate? Maybe not for me, but I completely agree with, like, in general, Robles is the kind of guy who can, like, he's a Buxton type of guy. Like, he can put up a monster game down there at the bottom. He's got some power, speed, and everything. So I kind of like that call.
Okay. I wasn't particularly getting to anything from the Mets, but I'll certainly listen.
I absolutely have no problem with anything from the Mets, and I probably will. I just have to draw the line somewhere.
I know, right? I mean, this is the problem.
But there's two guys who stand out as being way better than everybody else in the Mets. And it's Conforto and Wilson Ramos. Ramos is partly a position scarcity thing. You have a decent matchup for him. Even if he bats 7th or 8th, he's 3.1. He's a better hitter and got more power than most of these other guys. I think he's one of the better plays at catcher today. And I really like Conforto at 3.8. I mean, honestly, we might not see Conforto below 5 once he gets going again, you know? And it was only a week ago that he was rolling. So I don't understand entirely why the price is down like this for him. I know he struggled the last week, but still, I mean, he still hit a home run 4 games ago, I guess it was. And, you know, he's put up 16 or more in 3 out of the last, 7. It's a good matchup, good hitting weather. He's cheap, and he's got huge multi-homer upside. I'm into Conforto tonight, big time.
You know what you talk about a lot, which we should probably talk about more, is like I was going to say something like maybe Brandon Nimmo at like at 3,200 or whatever. And whenever and you say a lot, well, do you want to really use an outfield position?
Yeah.
Or a position scarcity? Like, tell me more about that. Like what positions do you not mind? You know what I mean? I guess second base is something that you wouldn't mind.
It depends on the day. Some days second base grades out to be the best position, but mostly outfield is always going to be these days.
Yeah.
And the thing is, on FanDuel you get the 4th spot, which you can use an outfielder in. Although I kind of like to do other things just to get tricky. But on DraftKings you just have the 3 outfielders, and I mean, look at all the great outfielders we've talked about. But Conforto is the kind of guy you'd want to use, though. He's got the multi-home run upside. He's got the power. Using a guy like Nimmo, which is fine. He's totally fine leading off at 3.2. But then you get into the conversation, well, is he better than Tucker leading off at 3.6? Or is he better than Reddick batting second at 3.4? Those are really tough calls, or Eaton at 3.5. I like all those other guys better than Nimmo, but certainly, like, in a vacuum, he's a good play. Make sense?
Yeah. So the reason why I asked that kind of disgust is because I'm looking at this next game, and I don't like what I'm going to end up doing. All right. So, oh Christ, excuse me. So Tampa and Boston, you have one of the highest projected hitting stacks on the slate, being Tampa, and I'll talk about that first. You'll have, Kevin Kiermaier, only 2,800 for openers. Diaz, Meadows, I mean, just up and down the lineup. Margot, maybe not my favorite, but maybe. And even Choi, whatever it is. So they're going to rate as one of the top stacks, and as a result, they're going to be pretty highly owned. And I will tell you something else. We talked about Philadelphia before being in a perfect environment. They were going to be highly owned too. And then we also talked about along the way, like these other stacks that we kind of want to get a piece of, right? So this is the issues that we run into. So my problem is this. So I had in my initial pictures, I had Eflin kind of like marginally at the top and a whole bunch of guys underneath him. And one of the things I said is look for a guy maybe with leverage. And unfortunately, one of the guys I listed was Godley as a pitcher I might be interested in.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think I'm going to end up probably getting more of him than I originally thought I was going to, for no other reason that Tampa's going to be really, really popular, so I can get double leverage that way.
Okay, so yeah, I actually think this is an interesting spot for Godley. Keeps the ball on the ground mostly. There's a couple of bats I like against him, which I'll get into that whole strategy in a minute. He's so cheap that you can go double cheap. You can use him as a pivot off of Eflin. Yeah. The Rays this is a really weird lineup, and I'll get into that. We can't play Snell, obviously, because he's not got enough pitches. Godley has been hit or miss in the past, and he's a ground ball guy, so you'd be looking for fly ball hitters to try and get against him. Now, he's struggled so far with his control a little bit, so he hasn't gone very far into games, hasn't pitched particularly well, but did have a good outing the first time, in that mild relief appearance. I'm okay with taking a shot at him. I don't prefer him over the Eflin or anything, but it's as a pivot, I don't mind taking that shot. I don't love it though. I also don't love Tampa. I think that originally they were the one who stood out. And it's funny because I stacked them yesterday in my biggest buy-in on a big slate. But it really did have to do with me trying to pay up at pitching for 2 spots that I thought I could get 50 points out of my pitchers and get ahead. I don't want to do that with anybody tonight. And Tampa Bay is just a stack that you'll realize the more you play them, the more that you shouldn't play them. Because you're getting 2 at-bats out of like 5 guys in the lineup. 5 guys are going to be pinch hit for basically, or platoon for. That's insane. I don't want to play teams like that. You know what I mean? I just don't think – I think you're so much limited your upside. Look at Rousseau last night, gets a home run, then hits a double, and they get pulled. They pinch hit for him in his 3rd at-bat. You know? I'm not doing this game. I'm not going to play that kind of game. I'll play the guys who, once they start, are going to stay in the game. That's going to be Brandon Lau and Austin Meadows. And sometimes Kiermaier because he's a good fielder. Andy Diaz is obviously going to be very popular tonight for good reason at such a cheap price. But I don't want to play – like, I don't want to play a chalky stack of these guys, especially without – they don't have a ton of power except for Lowe and Meadows. Yoshi – yeah, maybe Yoshi's looks like a great value play. But then you think about it, and you're like, if I play him, he might literally get 1 at bats in this game. It's completely with it. If the team's going well, he definitely might get 1 at bat in this game because they're going to bring in a lefty the first chance they get because their best hitters are lefties. So
Right.
once the lefty comes in, there goes Yoshi. Probably there goes Choi for Martinez. Same with Wendell, and possibly with Kiermaier. So that's just a dangerous situation. So I'm prioritizing Meadows and Lau from this group a little bit, but the other guys 5 to 10% maybe, just not overwhelmingly in love with it.
Yeah. Okay. You like anything from Boston? Or?
Runs? Yes. Is the team going to score runs tonight? Probably. But stack like it's like the Jock Peterson argument. Jock Peterson might get 2 at bats in a game, but at the same time, he's a little different though because he actually has immense power. You know, these guys don't have immense power. So anyway, let's move on.
Anything from Boston?
JD is way too cheap, and we don't know how – they're all priced down for Snell, so we should have some interest. And Snell's only probably going to pitch 3 or 4 innings the most. But just a big slate with like other spots.
What are they doing with him?
They're just – he wasn't he had an arm thing in the offseason, so they're just bringing him along really slowly. They don't want to waste – I understand it. You don't want to waste your franchise on this type of season.
Well, I got you. I mean, I wasn't asking but
Yeah.
I was literally asking you what they're doing with it.
No, I wasn't saying it in response to you. It's more the people on a lot of other shows get upset and they're like, "Oh, why are these teams they're not giving the pitchers any leash and they're not doing this and that."
Well, that's what I was saying. I wasn't questioning them. I literally just didn't know because
they just have to protect their future.
Okay, so we go to the next game. I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, it's amazing what putting a roof on the stadium can do. Where in the previous years we would just basically just stack everybody in Texas and against Texas.
Did you hear
now
it's
now it's become the biggest pitchers park in like the whole league pretty much.
Did you hear after they took the roof off though?
What they do now?
Expanded. It was way too hot, so they just said we're not doing that again. At least that's the impression now. So we shouldn't worry about the roof being open for a while.
Yeah. So I like both the pitchers here. I like Lyles and the other guy, the other doofus, Taiwan Walker, whatever his name is. They both are, again, I need you to help me walk you through all these middle of the road guys. I mean, they're both in, they're both in a good spot, right? They're both in a good stadium. Neither team has been, I shouldn't say neither team has been doing well because Seattle scores 15 runs a game, but overall they're probably not really very good. So I have interest in both these pitchers, and yet, on the other hand, I actually have some interest in the Texas side of the bats also. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at with this game. You like either of these pitchers enough that I can feel more confident? You hate either of them?
I like both of them, and they but I'll help you out a little bit more.
Okay.
They have the best pitcher's umpire in baseball.
Oh, okay.
Bill Miller behind the plate. That helps feel a little bit better, especially for guys who can get a little bit wild.
Okay.
I kind of like this a little bit, like both of the pitching spots in this game. I'm not interested in stacking anybody, but I have a lot of interest in Joey Gallo.
Yep.
at 4.7, and I have a little bit of interest in Calhoun, Chirinos, Chu, and Odor, but those guys are probably all going by the wayside by the end of the day for me.
Yeah, that helps me because, I don't, again, that was one of the stacks I was thinking of, and I didn't know it was Bill Miller. I just, I don't need it.
And they can still get there, but like we haven't seen that much power upside out of a lot of these guys, even though we know Odor, Gallo have a lot of power. Like, who else are we looking at here? Like Solak, we still don't know. Chirinos hasn't hit for power in a few years. Chu is now like a walk specialist. Like, they're just not that offense yet. Get him in a good hitting environment, and maybe we'll feel differently.
Yeah. Okay. So in the last game of the night, San Diego against the Dodgers, did I get to Davies? No, I didn't. I didn't get to either of these pitchers in my player pool. But
sorry, can I mention one thing from the last game I forgot to mention? Austin Nola is probably one of the better plays at catcher, even though he's 3.5 against Lyles there. Even though it's not a great spot, it's just he's batting fifth. He's a guy who bats up in the order. He's got talent. He hasn't really put it together this year, but he did have a home run a few games back, and he's put up 23, 16, and 17 in 3 of his last 4 games. So I would play this kid.
Okay, so in the last game of the night, I don't really like either of the pitchers. I thought I was going to get to Davies, but I didn't. So I'm just not going to. Thank God for that. There are too many other crappy pitchers that I can against teams that could slap them around. Actually, the other pitchers I'm playing are not going against the Dodgers, so that's good news.
Yeah. Speaking
Speaking of which, Cody Bellinger, Jock Peterson, the aforementioned Jock Peterson. Any chance you want to let Corey Seager back in? Corey Seager, sorry. Which one is he?
If we get Seager back, we don't know if Seager's back in.
Kyle Seager? No, Corey Seager. Kyle Seager hit a freaking grand slam last night, I think, or something like that.
You could throw Kyle Seager into a lineup if you want to.
Yeah, no kidding. But Corey Seager's back. He's getting thrown in there. Peterson, Turner, everybody. I mean, if you didn't like any of that, so to speak, I got no problem putting as many Dodgers as I feel like it in my lineups also. So I use my Dodger whisperer. You can tell me who I'm supposed to play besides Bellinger, Peterson, and Muncy, who are usually the guys I play against rookies.
Man, these guys are ice cold right now.
Yeah, I hear you.
A few games, but it's been ice cold. And Davies is actually usually a competent pitcher, but I can't say that I think he gets through this matchup very well. He's done it before against these guys and just gotten sort of, relied on BABIP in his favor.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're wanting to play these guys tonight. I think that the priority is very clearly to me Cody Bellinger, followed by Muncy. Those are the two guys who I would be trying to get in. The thing is, Davies is actually a little bit reverse splitsies for his career, but I don't like the power righties for the Dodgers, except for Betts, who's so expensive. I'd rather play Judge. So that's the only issue I have there. And even the
you could play Pollock.
I'm about to get to that one. Pollock is the other guy I got prioritized behind Muncy and Bellinger.
Okay.
Pollock actually hits so this is something I actually looked at a while ago because I was in love with Pollock, and I was always playing these Arizona stacks with him and the Goldschmidt, and they had these great Nick Ahmed would bat second, and he was great against lefties. So I love those stacks. So I looked into all this stuff, and he's been a terrific hitter, especially against reverse splits, righties, and lefty. That's where he dominates the most. He's a good hitter overall too. Constantly under-owned, constantly underpriced. I think he's bouncing back this year, although the lineup has been so bad. And there's always volatility that you might get. Less volatility, he's going to get pulled if he gets started against a righty. I don't know why he's not starting. This guy's last 2 games that he's played, he's hit a home run. He's hit he's hit a home run in each game. And they pulled him in both games after he was 2 for 2 and 2 for 3. That's worrisome to me. But Dave Roberts being an idiot aside, if Pollock's in the lineup, I'm probably going to have some interest today. And also, those were before – well, actually, no, he didn't play even with Corey Seager there. That's interesting with that Corey Seager out. But, yeah, if I were the Dodgers, I'd be playing Pollock every day, and I would definitely be playing Pollock in GPPs, especially as a mini Dodger stack.
Yeah, what I read, by the way, was that about Seager is that he took fielding practice yesterday or something like that, and they were going to, see how he felt or something like that. I don't think he ended up pinch hitting or anything like that.
No, I told you the thing with Seager, though, that this is an old, familiar, unfortunate story. We've had this happen, and it'll go days with him being like day-to-day. And then either he plays and hurts it again or he doesn't play. I hope he plays. I hope he's back. But as of right now, I'm not projecting. Do you want to go through the final part? Talk about some of the favorite pitchers. I know it's a weird slate, but I do have a pretty narrowed.
So no. It's helped. So there was one guy who I actually had my player pool that I was able to get rid of because I forgot that what's his name. I literally forgot that Snell doesn't have any upward pitch count. So from a pitching perspective, I'm still where I was, and that Eflin I have is slightly better than a whole bunch of guys, and they all have different kind of characteristics. Like I think Walker and Lyles are pretty good, and what's his name was in a good leverage spot, Godley, because he's going against Tampa. The one guy maybe I'll get rid of. Because, again, you kind of, I want to say made fun, but you're like, how many innings is this guy going to pitch? Maybe I don't need Lauer in my player pool after all that. And maybe I don't need on a slate like, maybe I do need Tanaka. I don't know. Maybe not. And I guess I have a little more interest in Greinke than I originally did. Because, again, the more I look at these pitchers, again, I gotta find 20 fantasy points somewhere, I think.
Yeah, and maybe not, but maybe 15 will do it for you tonight. If you're going to take that approach, maybe spending down. The problem is once you get to the guys you're spending down, including Lyles and Walker, you're getting into some pretty high volatility. Eflin seems the safest, and logically is the safest probably, but also it's very weird. The safest pitcher is a guy who's made one start this season and only pitched 4 innings. So
I know.
So it's a little strange, but he is 6.4. So I'm good with Eflin. I think he's going to be the priority for me. But just barely ahead of Maeda and Greinke as my other two in terms of ownership. And then I'm mixing in Lyles, Walker with some Godley and some Tanaka. I'm going to find out more on Tanaka, so that'll probably determine that. But I don't want to just cross him off yet because I've seen him be the most efficient guy I've ever seen, like, through innings. So he can go, like, 6 or 7 innings sometimes and throw, like, 50 pitches. So if he can get up to 75 or 80 pitches, I'm all on board with Tanaka.
Who do you like? Do you look specifically at FanDuel or not really?
In fact, if Tanaka can throw 80 pitches or 75 or 80, if we actually find that out, he actually might be the priority. He would be right there with Maeda, Greinke, and Eflin, maybe even higher.
Interesting.
So, and by the way, we did say I don't like Anibal Sanchez either. He is a great pitcher's umpire, which also makes me a little bit less interested in the Washington stack and the Met stack.
Okay, that's interesting.
So, but Sanchez, just because there's nobody else, maybe throwing him in at 10% is it something I'll do?
All right, so let's review the stacks again. The more I'm looking at this, I kind of want to stay away from either Philly or Tampa. You know what I mean? I don't want to play them both. So I don't know which one I like the least. I'm kind of sold on your logic about just basically avoiding Tampa. Not at all, not always, but almost leaning towards avoiding them just because of all the pinch hit risk that these guys kind of face all the time. And if they're going to be really, really popular, maybe that's kind of enough to dissuade me a little bit.
I do love Lau and Meadows especially. I mean, they're true great players. But we're looking at Tampa always grades out because they have these guys who have good splits, but they only get 2 at bats, and it's just so hard. I'm not saying that you don't want to do it, but when you like as many stacks as I do tonight, you got to get rid of something.
Hey, I have a dumb question.
Yeah.
Something we also didn't mention from the later game, because this is actually listed as one of my secondary stacks. Do you like the Padres at all?
You know, I thought about them. I have interest in every power. Like I have Tatis, I'll probably have 10% of. I'll probably have 10% of Machado maybe. But I don't think that I'm going to get to them as a priority thing. I do think they're off the board and they have the power upside to get there. But I don't think I'm going to go there tonight.
Okay. So my favorite stacks again, I guess I'm going to start with the Dodgers then. Like they're probably a decent mix of having big upside and also, you know, maybe not being that highly owned. Who knows? So they'll be my favorite. And then I don't know, maybe if Minnesota doesn't get the love that they deserve, they would be that. Houston, I struggle with. Mets, the pitcher's umpire kind of annoys me a little bit. And the other one you're not going to like is I always like playing the Kelston Heroes. I might do a little bit. I might do a little bit with Milwaukee against Maeda.
Yeah, you can always do it. I mean, the thing is, Maeda just never, ever gets blown up. But you can go ahead and do it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure it happens like once in the blue moon. As a Dodger fan, I can remember it happening like twice in like 7 years. You know what I mean? He's a good pitcher.
Who are your favorites?
So my favorites are pretty tough between them right now. So right now I've got the Yankees and Phillies and Twins is my favorite. The Twins being the differentiator maybe, because I think people aren't going to play them as much. And the Dodgers would be my fourth. But they're all pretty close. And depending on where some of the ownership comes in, I might let some of that decide. But I do want to just mention secondary stack wise. I really like the Yankees. I really like the Dodgers as a secondary. Like I like getting them as like a 2 or 3 man. And I like using 1 or 2 raised pieces in certain spots where either they're cheap or I can play Lau or Meadows with one other guy. That kind of thing is fine with me. I just don't want to get into that full Tampa Bay stacking thing.
Now, with respect to one-offs, if I'm going to be honest, I mean, I'm looking at my list here, and nobody is really like jumps off the page at me. You know what I mean? So I'll be looking. So when that happens, what I usually end up trying to do then is maybe paying up for upside my one-offs, or maybe just trying to find maybe stacking a little more, maybe more some 4-4s or something like that. But I'll just throw some names out there. Again, I don't know where he's going to fit in the lineup, if he's even going to play. But Jake Cronenworth is 2,100 in the Dodger game. Pilar, again, if he hits leadoff, is 2,600. Kiermaier, talked about all these Tampa guys. I guess my favorite, it's hard to ignore Rhys Hoskins. So that's where I'm going to go. And one other guy again from the Red Sox is Verdugo at 3K.
Yeah, my highest owned players are going to. I actually like the Verdugo call a lot as a value. I'm not finding, so I can get value all over the place. I've got my plays. These guys are all about the same ownership right now. I'll probably thin it out as it goes on. Kyle Tucker, Juan Soto, Nelson Cruz, Wilson Ramos, Cody Bellinger, Rhys Hoskins, JD Martinez, Trey Turner, Didi Gregorius, and Michael Conforto. But again, it's gonna change a little bit as we keep going. I'm gonna lower some of those and own some more. I also again really like Muncy, Pollock, Buxton in your twin stacks, Andrew McCutchen, Aaron Hicks, Bryce Harper, Joey Gallo, and Adam Eaton. Those are the highest owned players I have at the moment.
Okay. I guess we're good.
We got So what's that? So Sheets, before we get out of here, I'll stay on here with you real quick afterwards. Why don't we just give them like a one kind of prediction? I know people hate when they get put on the spot like this, but let's give them one prediction tonight, one home run or something like that.
Okay. I just came up with I was about to say I just came up with the sneaky stack because I was reading off some of these values and so many of them come from the same game, but I don't know if I want to mess with this team. I was going to say that between Verdugo and JD Martinez and Pilar, you're starting off with some pretty good freaking values at the top of this Boston lineup. So maybe that'd be the way to go. I don't know.
Yeah, you're getting some great value in Boston. I do agree with that. I'll do a quick one at each tier level if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So top is obviously Mike Trout, followed by next level would be Cody Bellinger, next level would be Rhys Hoskins, and the next level would be Abraham Toro.
Okay, I'll go with what you did because I wasn't prepared to do
this. Okay, all right. Sorry about that. I shouldn't have sprung that one on you.
That's all right.
For Sheets, I'm Bobby saying good luck tonight. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.